I'm here today with Steve Slaughter, and Steve's going to help us understand a little bit about the components of energy production in the human body and some other things that go around that. Let's first start with a little bit about your background and a little bit about who you are and how you got into this science.
My background is mainly in biology, physiology, and pharmacology. I have a doctorate in pharmacy, which is a blend of pharmacology and actual professional pharmacy. So it's kind of a blend. I've seen a lot of Western medicine, understand Western medicine, and then the last 10, 15 years, I've been deeply intrigued by natural health and supplementation, some good, some bad, and trying to decipher which is valid and which is a waste of money, and actually could be hard on your body.
Yeah, and that's important because I think people get overwhelmed with all those choices.
There's a lot of marketing, a lot of products, a lot of things to choose from. It's nuts, quite simply.
So, in your opinion, then, where should someone look? What's the baseline of nutrition that we need to be looking for?
Well, it isn't just a simple thing. Although a simple commitment is needed, you need to make sure that you're willing to make a life change, and you're willing to exercise regularly, you're willing to eat right, you're willing to supplement with those supplements that you have developed some trust in, and with limited knowledge gone after and tried to understand using them, how to use them, when to use them, how much to use. I believe it's a package, a whole combination of doing the right things, because the body kind of accepts them synergistically, and it puts them together to kind of change the way you feel mentally, emotionally, and physically.
Excellent. One of the things we hear a lot about is energy, and I know on the market today one of the hottest topics in nutrition supplements are the energy drinks and energy supplements that are out there. But is that really the right direction to go when trying to fuel long-lasting energy and health in our bodies?
Anybody who listens to me now understands that if you go for stimulants, which are what the world is promoting now as being energy, you're going to wind up developing a tolerance, you're going to wind up in a flat place, you're going to have to take more often, and actually their effect is still accumulating in your body, although what they produce, the stimulation they produce, will gradually decline.
You won't feel it as much.
You won't feel it as much, but the amount of chemical is still in your body trying to do the job that it used to do, but it's not doing anymore. So that's not truly energy, that's stimulation. That's commonly, your mind thinks that you're doing something better and harder, and you're not actually being more productive. It's been shown that people that take these stimulants, the energy drinks and things like that, find that they think they've been doing better, and they actually have not been. So it's all in your mind, and it isn't always true.
Kind of a false energy and a false sense of accomplishment. So what can we do? Where's the real energy come from? How is that produced in our bodies?
It's been known for years, it's not hype anymore, that there's a simple chemical in the body that's responsible for all of the energy that our body produces: movement, heartbeat, nerve production, and that's a chemical simply called ATP, and it's an acronym for adenosine triphosphate. It's a small molecule with phosphate molecules bound to it, and within those binding of a phosphate molecule is some energy when you break that bond. And it's that energy that drives all the processes in your body that gives you that actually makes your heart beat as you talk, as you sleep.
So ATP, I remember that from high school biology, and it is a function in the cell, and how is it produced, and how do we keep that up?
ATP is a high energy molecule that's produced in the cell by burning nutrients. And it's a chain of events according to which nutrient you're burning on how much ATP that's produced from that. And then the ATP is then used to be broken down, and when you break it down, it produces the energy that you feel in your body, or that you don't feel, the nerves firing, the heart beating, the digestion of your food. All those processes that you don't feel are going on are actually going on due to ATP.
Mm-hmm. So everything, every energy reaction
every
in your
cell
body.
in nature, every cell in your body is using ATP for every process.
Constantly.
All the time.
So does that ATP magically appear? How do we get that? How does it come together in the body?
ATP is recycled after you break one of the phosphates off and the energy shoots out. It becomes ADP, which is 2 phosphate molecules on the backbone, and then it's recycled and another molecule which requires energy of phosphate is added to the ADP to get you ATP again, and then you break off the 3rd phosphate, and that just cycles through that process. But the energy required to add the 3rd phosphate to the first 2 has to be produced on cellular processes. So quite simply, to make the science somewhat digestible, there's nutrients that are required for ATP to be produced all the time. And it's a step process, and every step along that pathway is a requirement. And that whole process can be stopped by the shortage of one of the enzymes along that pathway. And we didn't know this for a long time, and most of the ATP in your body will be basically bogarted by the heart, because the heart it's required to beat. And so we know that the ATP can be generated efficiently and stored efficiently, that your heart will not only be stronger and more efficient, but the rest of your body won't be shorted of the energy required to do other things like promote a healthy heart.
Gotcha.
So to speak.
So ATP is kind of the backbone or the key to a healthy heart, a healthy body, more energy, all of these great things. Now, what can we do on a daily basis to help support that ATP production?
My biggest interest right now is basically 4 molecules or 4 nutrients that we put into our body. 2 of them most appropriately produce a chemical called nitric oxide, which is known to be a very effective vasodilator, meaning that it opens blood vessels, mainly the blood vessels going away from your heart. And that's important because the blood vessels opening appropriately and closing when they need to appropriately, and then opening and closing is like stretching the muscles of your blood vessels, and it's like exercising them, and they stay pliable and healthy as long as they're opening and closing and opening and closing as they're supposed to. And that simple chemical, nitric oxide, is produced effectively by 2 nutrients that are basic science nowadays, and we found out about these the last few years, and there's been prizes awarded for the science of them. And it's mainly an amino acid called arginine and another amino acid called carnitine. And those 2 ingredients in and of themselves, or each one in and of themselves, makes a difference on opening up arteries. And if you open up arteries, in other words, if you're forcing the same amount of fluid through a bigger hose, the pressure goes down within that hose. So if you open up the arteries, your blood pressure will drop. And so those 2 ingredients that promote the production of nitric oxide will naturally lower your blood pressure and increase the health of your heart. And one of the keys to this is that we commonly believe that most of the ATP in your heart was used when the heart contracted or beat. We're now finding out that a majority of the energy used in your heart is used when your heart relaxes or fills, which we didn't commonly know before. We thought that all the energy was used for to contract, for the heart to beat. It's a muscle.
That would seem logical.
And it does, and we're finding out now that so much energy is required just for the heart to relax, to fill, and if you don't have the energy required for the heart to relax and fill, and it doesn't fill appropriately, it also won't beat effectively and push enough blood, to promote good circulation. So
those are the benefits of carnitine and arginine.
And arginine.
Okay, and you mentioned 2 more.
There's 2 others, and the 2 other ingredients, which I believe are key if you're trying to build a healthy heart and healthy blood, and that would be ribose, which is a sugar, and the other chemical would be coenzyme Q10, which is one of the key elements in a process, a step-by-step process that occurs in these little particles inside the cell called the mitochondria.
I remember those, the powerhouses.
The powerhouses of the cell is where almost the vast majority of the energy is produced per cell, is per mitochondria. and there's a chemical that highly charged hydrogen ions bounce back and forth, and that little chemical is called ubiquinone or coenzyme Q10, and that if there's a shortage of that chemical, that whole process can be stopped. And so we've known about coenzyme Q10 for years. There's been a lot of papers written on it, but supplementing it, combining it with a sugar called ribose, means that you're going to give the heart the two most important ingredients it needs to build ATP. Because the backbone of ATP is a chemical called adenosine. That's what the A stands for, and adenosine is made from ribose. And also, ribose, which isn't really critical here, is the backbone of nucleic acids or genetic chemicals. The R in RNA stands for ribose. So the key to it is ribose is made in your body from simple glucose or sugar, but the process is called the pentose shunt, pentose being 5 sugars, ribose is a 5-carbon sugar. That process doesn't work efficiently all the time, and so you could limit the amount of ATP produced by limiting the amount of glucose converted to ribose, ribose being the key ingredient to ATP. So it's my belief, if you were to optimally supplement ribose and coenzyme Q10, and you were to involve arginine and carnitine, not only would you have a healthy heartbeat with plenty of ribose, meaning plenty of ATP, and plenty of coenzyme Q10, a key ingredient in the step-by-step process to produce ATP, and then you pumped an effective heart into
Open blood vessels.
Open blood
Healthy
vessels, and those blood vessels were healthy, and when they dilated, they allowed more spaces or channels for nutrients to leave the blood vessels and perfuse the tissues. The combination of those 4 ingredients would be, not only each ingredient would be successful, but the combination of 4 could be synergistic and at least additive. So if you add the effects of each one of them individually to get one ingredient, the fact is you will have a healthy heart and you'll probably have a drop in blood pressure at least 10 to 15 points on both sides.
So it's almost like the classic saying, the sum of the whole is greater than the parts. When you bring
I believe so. It's at least, we're at least going for the sum of the parts. If we can just get the additive effects of all 4 ingredients doing their job, as we know they do, it's not hype, it's science. We know that each ingredient will do its part. The combination of the 4 could make a big difference on the health of your heart and your blood vessels and your level of energy, because if that's what energy comes from, is good circulation, good healthy heartbeat, and low blood pressure, and the ability to get the energy when you need it at a consistent level and not these peaks and valleys that we're all used to, you'll probably have a more productive overall life, emotionally, mentally, physically.
And not have it be a false sense of production.
Right,
It
without
is real.
without the drops, without the valleys,
Now I'm going to back up to one thing you said that I found very interesting. You had mentioned that if the blood vessels are opening as they should, and even the smaller blood vessels that are getting into your tissue, that you will be bringing more of the bodybuilding or health-building nutrients to the cells themselves beyond just the energy. So all of your other dietary and vitamin supplements that you might take are then having a greater effect if this is the
They
case?
should be. You know, you could extrapolate.
Theoretically?
Theoretically, you could extrapolate that information and say if blood vessels are healthy and the walls of a blood vessel, there's somewhat of a musculature to where they'll expand and they'll contract and expand and contract, and the gates of nutrients leaving the bloodstream and going into the tissues through those blood vessels will also be healthy if they're exercised regularly.
Right.
And the selectivity of things going through those channels created when you dilate a healthy blood vessel could mean that the whole system does better. And we're believing, again, we're extrapolating some information, but it sounds very plausible that nutrients could be delivered much more effectively through a much healthier blood vessel.
Well, just better blood flow to the tissues helps the tissues.
And we know that
Yeah.
we know that with the fact that some of the other diseases that occur in the elderly are probably due to poor circulation And so if we can increase that circulation quite simply with ingredients that are natural, that are supplemented, that would be a way to critically change life with an easy step.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. This has been incredibly informative. Please check out the other areas of the website and find out more about these wonderful 4 elements or nutrients that we've just talked about. And we'll bring you more information as it becomes available.